You're listening to the Lovish Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Sita Hood, vision architect and licensed therapist. Each week, I'm going to help you to develop the belief and strategy necessary to make an immediate impact on the world by deep diving into topics like mental wellness, faith, relationships, and you guessed it, love. I should mention before we hop into the show, this is not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed therapist. Welcome to the special series, The Holiday Hype. In this series, we're focused on releasing old narratives that make us dread the holidays, embracing new perspectives and traditions, and getting hype for our newfound freedom. Grab your mug, your notebook and pen, and let's get high. Hello. It is Dr. Hood, and I am so excited about doing this series with you. I decided to do the Holiday Hype series because I know that there are so many of you that actually dread the holidays. Maybe you dread the holidays because you lost a loved one, and the holidays are that painful reminder that they're not here with you. Maybe you dread the holidays because it's when you have to see your family and have a painful reminder of your past trauma. Or maybe your interactions with your family are just plain toxic and you hate it. So in turn, you hate the holidays. I created this series for you. It is time to break the broken record, okay? It's time to kill the cycles. It's time to heal from trauma and to thrive. No more dreading the holidays. If you're listening to this podcast, I want to let you know that this episode is also over on YouTube as a video podcast. You can easily find the channel by typing into YouTube at Dr. Sita Hood. All right. No more forcing yourself to show up in places that make you uncomfortable, right? And I'm not talking about the healthy growth levels of being uncomfortable because those are necessary for your process. I'm talking about forcing yourself to fit into somebody else's narrative for your life. You've been holding on to mess for way too long, and I say that with love. At some point, you've just got to decide that enough is enough. So, what's the Holiday Hype series all about? It is about shifting your perspectives. It's about shifting your view of the holiday. I don't want you to dread holidays anymore because a lot of people are excited around the holidays. And I want you to be one of those people, not just around the holidays, but specifically, I know that the holiday can be triggering to a lot of people. And usually this time of year, I am recording something to help prep people get ready to go see their families and stuff like that. But this year, I wanted to give you something more than that. I want to not only prep you to see your family, but I want to prep you to break the traditions, the thought processes, the trauma. I want to push you into a place where you see the holidays as something to get excited about, where you get to generate your new narrative around the holidays. So we are going to embrace this newness. We're going to embrace the freshness of this season. And I want to start with breaking the mold. So I know it's November 1st, and I already got Christmas music going. Okay, and Judge and Mama, okay. But seriously, it's fall. It's beautiful outside. The leaves are falling off of the trees, and if you love fall, comment down below and let me know what your favorite thing about fall is. So the leaves are falling from the trees. And it's just beautiful to drive outside. The weather is a little bit like crisper, but not super, super cold. So we're still like in a good spot. But here's the thing. In order for us to be able to observe the beauty that we see in the leaves falling down and the piles that our kids get to play in, and maybe you still play in, right? Something had to die. Something had to break. Something had to shift, something had to change for that beautiful peace, this beautiful environment that we see. For the leaf to fall off of the tree, it had to die first. And when the spring comes around, there will be a new tree, a new leaf that is budding, right? But you can't get to the beautiful newness of spring with the air, the fresh air, and the leaves and the flowers and the gorgeous roses blooming. You can't experience that without first allowing a part of you, the old parts, to die off. And that's a hard thing to accept. It's a hard concept, and it's not an easy process to go through. In fact, change sucks, right? Whether you're in the middle of it or the end of it, or you just got done with it, change sucks. But I want to invite you to break the mold, to break how you normally see change, transition, to see this season, right? When I'm talking about the mold, I'm talking about the idea that the holidays have to go one particular way. They don't. You have the freedom at any point in time in your life to change how the holidays go for you, to change how they go for your family, to change how you interact with your family. You get to decide. If you're tired of eating turkey for Thanksgiving and sweet potato pie, order a pizza. Who says you got to have turkey? I know, me personally, I'm not necessarily a fan of like turkey, okay? Unless it's deep fried turkey, but even still, it's like, eh. And I know some of y'all like, what? The turkey is the main thing. I hear you. It's just not my personal favorite, and that's okay. So when I'm making Thanksgiving dinner, if people want turkey, then they're gonna have to bring a turkey, right? Because I'm making all the rest of the things, but I don't cook turkey, and I don't really want to have like I don't really want to have I don't want to learn how to make a turkey. Okay. Let's just put it real plain. So if turkey doesn't work for you, order a pizza. That's a really simple example. But the point is this: if there is something that you've been doing since you were 3 years old, and now you're doing it out of obligation at 39 years old, you have the freedom to decide that you no longer want to do that. And it's really just that simple. Now, how you get there might be a little bit different, but it is as simple as making a choice. If the holidays have historically been extremely hard because it's a reminder of what you don't have and who's not here with you, I'm going to say something really cliche to you right now. And I'm going to say focus on what you do have. And I know that that might be a little bit challenging to hear. And I'm not trying to skip over your pain. But what I'm saying is sometimes you can find purpose from your pain. Sometimes you can create something beautiful as a result of the pain that you've experienced. And it doesn't feel good, again, to say or to hear because nobody likes pain, but it's true. Again, I want to go back to that example of the leaves. They have to die before they can fall. They change their colors, and they're gorgeous colors, right? And they make the streets so beautiful, but they have to die before they fall off. If you've spent 15 years mourning the death of a loved one during this particular holiday season, how can you shift the narrative? How can you break the mold and flip the script? How can you honor their memory during this holiday season? I want you to think about that. And I don't say this as a far removed therapist. I say this as a daughter who lost her father 15 plus years ago. And I make room for sadness, the sadness of grief to exist. I allow myself to grieve the loss, but I also allow myself the joy of talking about him again. I talk about him with my kids. I show them why I love jazz music so much. It's because he used to play, right? He used to play jazz music. He used to play the saxophone. He loved jazz music. He used to step. Why I belt a song out at the top of my lungs because that was his favorite song. So these are traditions that they now get to share in. And these are traditions that also warm my heart and allow me to keep his memory alive. And they feel like that they know him to some extent because I take the time to intentionally honor his memory. So if you're struggling with grief and loss this season, how can you honor the person's memory? What can you do to pull them into your yearly traditions? How can you shift the narrative around your pain? I'm going to be sprinkling questions for you to journal about throughout this episode. So there's one or a couple of them at this point. But how can you shift the narrative around your pain? What's the thing or things that hold you back from getting hyped over the holidays? Is it a certain person? Is it your interactions with this person? Is it the way that they do something? What conversations do you need to have to change this perspective? I don't subscribe to cutoff culture. You know, we or cancel culture, however you want to say it. We have conversations, and if a relationship is not necessarily the healthiest choice for me at that period in my life, I'm not even going to say it's a cancellation or a cutoff, because I do believe that you can respectfully create distance, and you can still be cordial and you can still want the best for that person, as opposed to taking the all or nothing stance. Now, getting back to that person or people maybe that kind of trigger you around the holidays. If you've got that thing or that person in your mind, here's the question that I want to ask you. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Why are you giving them so much power over you? That's really the reality of what we're talking about here. It's just that simple. They are taking so much power to control the way you interact at events or even events that you run. You have the most powerful tool at your disposal, ready at all times: your voice. Yeah, it's your voice. And you might feel like, oh, I'm not that strong, I don't speak this way, blah, 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 etc. Trust me, you may not choose to use it, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. You've got to start using your voice. There's no more excuses. You can't expect people to behave with common sense, because common sense is just not so common. We all have different experiences, different baggage, different life things that come up for us. Even if we grew up in the same household, even if we've had the same experience, the way we experience that situation is going to impact us differently based upon our personalities. So we could all be in the same situation, but we see it very differently. And so things impact us at different times and at different levels. So I might be immediately impacted by a situation, and the realization might hit you a couple of weeks later. And the degree that it hits you might be more severe than how it hit me. We just don't know. So you have to be able to use your voice to communicate what works. No more being afraid to use your voice. No more. You are too grown for that. Okay? Too grown to be using the excuse. No more being afraid to offend anyone. Okay? I've always owned the belief that you can say whatever you want to whoever you want, as long as you use the right words, the right tone, and the right timing. It's up to them to interpret your statement however they want to interpret it, but it's still important for you to speak up. And it's important to recognize that are neutral, right? So my feeling of jealousy, my feeling of envy, my feeling of anger, those are just feelings. These are things that I feel, and I am entitled to feel these things and to express these things if that's what I'm feeling. You following me? Okay. Here's another elephant in the room that I want to talk about. Okay. Lean in a little bit closer. a little bit closer. I'm going to say this to you because I care about you. Okay? It's time to go to therapy. I know. I just have to give it to you truthfully, authentically, and respectfully. But it's time to go to therapy. Okay? No more excuses, no more putting it off. There are resources and opportunities available for every type of therapy that you could even imagine. You've got to go. You got to. You can't procrastinate any longer. Here's the thing. It won't even be as bad as you think it will. I promise. I promise it won't be that bad. But you've got to go. You've spent way too much time hurting yourself, way too much time suffering in silence, trying to be the rock of the family or the strong friend. You've simply got to be selfish and go to therapy. You've got to work out that trauma. Give yourself space and time to heal. No more pretending like you're okay. You do get to be selfish. And you do get to go to therapy. And you don't have to wait until the new year to get started. You can start right now. And because I want you to have an amazing holiday season, you can't do that if you're not willing to heal, if you're not willing to let go of the trauma and the past experiences. And I know that that's hard to do. I recognize that I'm just a therapist talking to you and just saying it very plainly to you, but I want you to know that I understand. I know that there's so much pain there, and I know that you feel like if you start crying, you will never stop. I promise you that's not true, but you've got to go to therapy. It's not going to get easier by avoiding the problem. You got to face the problem head on. Listen, take out your phone right now. Go ahead, take it out. Take out your phone and text somebody. For accountability purposes, tell somebody, hey, I'm listening to this podcast. Maybe you want to share it with them and let them know I want to be committed and I want to start therapy. So I'm sending you this text message because I want to be committed to me and I want you to hold me accountable. Tell them that you are committed to finding a therapist. It's not enough for this to be something that you realize. You've got to actually do something about it. And it won't kill you. I promise it won't. I know it might feel like it, but I promise it will not take you out. Okay? In fact, it's going to help you to highlight the best parts of life. And even if you've been before, I promise with the right therapist, the right person in your corner, it's not going to be like it was before. I'm going to leave you a resource in the show notes so that you can find a therapist. Okay. So today's episode is all about opening the door, clearing out the closet. No more skeletons. We're not dragging skeletons into this holiday season. We're not getting hyped for the holiday with weight on our back. We just can't do that anymore. We can't sustain that way of life anymore. We want to walk into the new season without loads of baggage. And the only way to do that is to clear out the room. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to take the reflection questions throughout this episode and journal about them. Check in with somebody for accountability. Maybe share the episode with them too so that they can heal. And then I want you to start planning ways to make your holiday more hype. If you've always wanted to see the Christmas lights downtown, go. If you've always wanted to host a Friendsgiving, host it. Okay? The point here is to do what you want to do, what you need to do, what your body is telling you to do today, because tomorrow is not promised. Let's get hyped. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for this holiday hype series, this very special episode. And this episode would not be complete without me adding on what I am loving. Y'all see these right here. Yes, I've been doing my own nails. Never thought that would be the case. This is a gel nail set, okay? Your girl got the drill and everything, okay? So that's what I've been loving, the simplicity of like creating designs on my nails. Now, I'm not going to show y'all up close and personal because some of y'all going to be out here like, I'm a nail tech and you got to love it. We're not perfect yet, but we are trying. And I think I'll be doing a good job, right? These are nails from my party. I had a party, a graduation party. And so I never thought I would be doing my own nails for my graduation party, but I did. First time for everything. That is the simple thing that I am loving this week. What are you loving? Drop it in the comments below. Or if you are listening to this episode, tag me on social media. Well, thank you so much for joining me for part 1 of the Holiday Hype series. You can meet me right back here next week for part 2. We are going to be talking about the boundary reset. I hope to see you next week on this show. But before you go, share the love. Share this episode with your auntie, share with your mama, share with your best friend. And then once you have done that, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Reviews and sharing help the podcast to grow. Well, that's all I have for you today. I'll see you out in these social media streets. Bye.